Okay. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا بفضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. So, let's go through our context. We mentioned the verse says, cut the thief's hand off. What is theft? What do they have to steal? What are the conditions? Not mentioned in the Quran. Okay, Imam Bukhari, Imam Malik, they narrate the Prophet said, a hand is cut off for a quarter of a dinar. That's a gold standard that doesn't change, and up. There are other narrations too. Okay, so I'm quoting Imam Malik. Malik is Medina. Imam Shafi'i generally following that same thing. Hence, so we just opened this textbook of Matn Shuja written what 900 years ago or something like that. And you see all this Medini thing in it. Lots of things that, oh, this is from the fatwa of the Medinis, right? Like, oh, why is that the case? Imam Shafi'i, yes, he's a melange of various different things, but he's actually Medini, like he's coming from that Medinan thing. That's very much the case. Okay, and so here, Al-Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi. So again, notice there's no verse of the Quran, no explicit hadith. It says that this nation has concurred that it is a condition for the hand to be cut off, that the item stolen must be kept in some kind of safe place that has barriers, right? I don't read the Quran, or I read the Quran alone, and I say, I'm a Quran, I just follow the Quran. Whoever steals, cut the hand off. There's lots of things that could be considered as theft, right? But majority of scholars, they limit it. Vast majority of scholars might limit to many things. Number one, that it's a certain amount. Number two, that it has to be kept, excuse me, kept in some kind of safe place that has barriers, right? We may give the analogies last week. Owned by someone else, right? What if it's shared wealth, right? There's no mitigating unclarity. We mentioned your family's property, charity or an endowment. It's vague. This money is going to go to the poor, or is going to go to this person. Is it or not, right? We gave the example of the wife, right? You're stealing from your wife's house. She has a house somewhere else that has property in the house. You break in and steal from it. That is considered sariqa, the relied upon position of the Shafi school. Okay, on the other position, why would we say it's not the case? Because, it's money does go back and forward and you're a family. The relied upon position, no, money does not go, the wife does not pay for things. She's not obliged to pay for things. So relied upon position is yes, if you steal from your wife, your hand gets cut off. If she steals from you, no, because there's the shubha, right? Remember the hadith of was it Safiya? I can't remember who it was now. It escapes me now who it was, asking about saying that I can't remember the hadith, who it was, one of the sahabiyat saying, my husband's cheap, he doesn't support the kids, and the Prophet telling her, take it, right, take it, and so there's a shubha, right? The woman now steals. No, that was nafaqah. Is it nafaqah? Is it support, or is it something else? There's a shubha. There's a level of lack of clarity. We're not going to say, yes, what she did was sinful. She's a bad person. She has to give the money back, but we're not going to cut her hand off, right? And same thing there. No hand should be cut off during a famine. We spoke about this last week. We said because of the lack of clarity. It is not because Sayyidina Umar worked on maqasid and said, no, the Sharia is there to achieve certain goals. Therefore, the deen can change every generation based on achieving those goals, right? What is haram in one generation can be halal in another generation. Yes, homosexual marriages were forbidden, but they could be halal in our generation because we're different economic, social reality. No, that's not what was happening. As we say, it wasn't clear, did they have a right to take it or not? That's why. Not to mention that it's weak. Okay, kept safely, as you mentioned. So you have to break into a house behind the counter, a supervised area, as opposed to leaving something unsupervised. It's on the counter. It's outside of your house, right? Somebody's stealing your car in front of your house, right? As opposed to stealing your car inside the garage, right? That was an American one for you, right? Just for sham, right? We say garage, right, in Britain. Okay, so not pickpocketing. Go ahead, Badr.
Um, so for kept safely. Um, so if somebody had just like a bazaar with a stand and a bunch of things just like out in the open like that, and they walked away temporarily, and someone just grabbed something.
Yeah, there's
Would,
no, they cannot cut the hand off for that.
okay.
Yeah. Um, so that excludes so pickpocketing again for the Medinans. I think the Hanafis they do include pickpocketing, but for the Medinans in Imam Shafi, pickpocketing is not there's not you can't do that. So here Zayd ibn Thabit. So when we say the Maliki school, we're saying the school of Aisha radiallahu anha, the school of Zayd ibn Thabit, the school of Ibn Umar, right? Very, very important. So Zayd ibn Thabit, Imam Shafi'i follows his fatwa in inheritance. And here we say the same thing. Here's a fatwa from Zayd ibn Thabit. It is the Maliki school, it is the Shafi school. No hand should be cut off for pickpocketing. Is that a hadith? No, that's Zayd ibn Thabit giving a fatwa. Right? This is not considered um looking it's not considered a safely guarded area, right? Perhaps Abdullah Mas'ud, right? So this is the same Zayd ibn Thabit who was ordered to gather the Mus'haf, right? For those familiar with the story of how the Mus'haf was composed, right? And Sayyidina Uthman had Zayd ibn Thabit, this young man, to do that, right? So Zayd ibn Thabit, he's in Medina. That's one world. He has whole lot of fatwa to do with inheritance. Abdullah Mas'ud has other inheritance. Abdullah Mas'ud built the man Hanafi school. Zayd ibn Thabit, Ibn Umar, Aisha radiallahu anha, they built the Maliki school. Okay, we mentioned this last week as well. Armed robbery. So if it's organized crime plus there's control of an area, right? There's a whole area that the police cannot go into. They're not able to do that. This is now considered this is now considered a different crime, and there's a particular had punishment for this, as we'll discuss. Right, just like piracy or highway robbery, it's one thing. So the point is that piracy and highway robbery is usually outside of a city, right? It's far away, but the same thing applies into a city. The legal reason is that the authorities do not have control over the area anymore. It's too dangerous. It's too difficult to get in. Okay, the thief has to be sane. So again, how sane, right? It's clearly sane. So if it's not really clear if he's sane or not, we cannot go around cutting someone's hand off. It has to be intentional. He intentionally did it, right? So what if he was forced? Gunpoint. What if it was accidental, right? So, uh, uh, if you are forced, you're still liable, right? So this is important. Duress does not relieve you of financial responsibility. So we said there is a famine in a certain country. It is a fard kifaya to provide them with food. It's not fard kifaya, not a communal obligation to provide them with free food. If they can pay, they pay. If they can owe the money, they can owe the money. So the point is, people cannot starve, Muslim or non-Muslim, but you're not obliged to give free money. And as Sham will tell us, the only reason why certain countries give financial aid is because they want something back, because there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? And so, that's something else, right? But the point is, you're forced to do something. Um, you cannot have your hand cut off for these kind of things, but you're still liable. They have to be. 1 second, let's check this. Give me 1 second. Da, 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 da. Um, okay, I'm just looking at the Mukra. Right. So now I put a gun to Sham's head and I say, steal this thing from Badr right now, or I'll shoot you in the head. Okay. So now he's forced, right? He knows I'm serious. I'm not joking. This is not a game. This is not anything. This is real, right? So he knows I either die or I steal this, right? So the mukrah, the one who was forced, okay? Let's go back here. The one who was forced, there is no, his hand is not cut off because he's forced, okay? Okay, what about the mukrih? What about the person who put the gun to his head? Similarly, there's no, there's you cannot cut my hand off. I did not steal, so you cannot cut my hand off. Right? So you can see what we're doing. We're avoiding in any way possible, avoiding it. Right? Now we're going to see this is slightly different to killing. Right. So I put a gun to Sham's head. I said, if you do not kill Badr, I'll kill you. Is Sham allowed to kill Badr? The answer is no. Right. So murder or rape, not allowed to do that. Right. And so they mentioned with rape specifically that if you saw a man raping a man, and this man has la hurmata lahu, there's no sanctity. For example, here is a kafir harbi. He is a kafir actively engaged in military fighting against Muslims. There is no sanctity to his life, right? He's supposed to be killed, but he is now being raped by another man. You're not allowed to let that happen because of the sanctity of his body, right? Or that's not even the illa because he has body has no sanctity. Like if you could kill him and feed his body to the dogs to eat because he has no sanctity. There's no sanctity to his body, right? You don't have to bury him or anything, but just the fact that that can't happen, right? So there's certain things that just can't happen, right? So you can lie, you can do sorts of things. You can do things like so theft you can do because you can give the money back, right? But you can't unkill somebody, right? So you cannot, if someone puts a gun to your head and say, kill this person or I'll kill you, you just don't do it and just get shot. That's it. So you're gonna become? Yeah, you died as a shaheed. Yeah. Said, I'm not gonna do it. It's haram. I'm not gonna do it. So you get a reward. Okay. Okay. Citizen of Muslim state. So you're in America. Badr steals something from inside my house. He's not a citizen of of a Muslim state. Right.
Sheikh, can I ask a question about that?
Go ahead.
Just so we're on the same page, inshallah. Muslim state, and we were just talking about this, I feel, a few weeks ago. That implies the presence of a caliph. Does it not? And
Yeah,
would that mean that there's
yeah, but
very few?
yeah, what does that mean? What does a khalifa mean? A caliph means a Muslim ruler, whether he's legitimate or not. Right? So that's quite easy to be fulfilled. So any Muslim country is a Muslim state. So is that person, is the head of it a Muslim? Yes, great. That's a Muslim country.
But okay, one follow-up. Does that mean that so what about a country where the head is a Muslim, but Islam is not even the majority religion? Does it matter?
Yeah, that doesn't matter, no. Nor does it matter that in their dustur, in their what's it called? What's the word? What's the word? I'm thinking. I use it in Arabic. The political. What's it called? Like what do you call it? No, what's the word? No, the thing that's their statement, their political. What's the word?
Constitution.
Constitution.
The constitution. Jazakumullah Muhammad. I'm speaking more Arabic than English now, right? Their constitution states that we are not an Islamic state, right? Like we are not an Islamic state. We do not apply Sharia law, right? That they're still an Islamic state because that's what we're looking. So we're looking at it from so Sunnis we're very practical, very pragmatic. It's like I don't really care what you're doing or what you think you're doing. I'm interested in are you Muslim and can I throw this onus on you of judging between people and enacting things like it's Ramadan. Hey, you have to say it now. It's like, what? I don't care about Ramadan. Yeah, well, you tell me if it's Ramadan or not. Like, I now give you that right. So if I say it's Ramadan, that's up to you whether you believe me or not. But I'm the Muslim ruler, and I say it is now the first of Safar. Okay, that defines the first of Safar. There we go. Right, now we've seen, as long as it's not invalid, then that's what it is. Because it's a legal thing, right? Or is this a divorce or not? Yes, it is. No, it isn't. Done. Right? So it's more the right of the muwatin, the right of the citizen, than the legitimacy and morality of the ruler that we're interested in. Right? So yes, and so a Muslim country that doesn't do it. Okay, they don't do it. Fine. You can't do it without the state doing it. But if they decide to do it one day, right, even for illegitimate reasons, right, it turns out that's the enemy of the state. Stuff so like, yeah, we're going to do it. Great, then it's legitimate because it's already there, right? It's already there. It's something that can be done.
So, Sheikh, sorry, last thing, just to clarify. So the legitimacy does not matter whether the person was quote unquote democratically elected or put in the position doesn't matter. Because
Yeah,
I'm just thinking of Ethiopia. The president of Ethiopia is Muslim, but Ethiopia is a majority Orthodox Christian country. But
that's
according to
irrelevant.
the Sharia, Ethiopia would be a Muslim state.
Yeah, so if you think about it, the Muslim countries in the beginning were always Muslim minority, right? Majority, let's say they turn up in Egypt, like here's a bunch of Arabs, but the whole country is all Copt, yeah, Copts, the Coptic Christians. So that was a majority anyway, right? Um, so being a majority minority is irrelevant. We're looking at who's ruling in the state, and we don't care the fact that it was through a military coup. That's irrelevant. You're sinful for the blood you spilt. Rule, please. Now there is now somebody who needs a divorce to be. Is this a divorce or not? Give me the final answer. Because one fatwa says yes, one fatwa says no. What is the final answer? Are we going to build this road or not? Right? He says yes, we're building the road, and everyone has to take part. Okay. What are the rules? This is the rule. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
So can I ask a follow-up question? I know this is steering away from the topic, but like the other brother raised the case of Ethiopia, for example. I think in Christian majority countries, the laws itself would be either secular or based on other religions. So even so, when we're asking a simple question like, will this be considered a divorce or not? If the ruling is based on Christian law or different types of secular law, do we take it as either ruling of Islam or the ruling of Muslim
Yes, as long
caliph?
as it's not totally wrong. So it's usually in divorce and those things it's going to be totally wrong. But for example, in financial issues, it won't. So I have a debate with you. Do I owe the money to you? Yes or no? We can't solve it. I go to the court here. The court here in America does not have moral authority over me. So now they say you owe him the money, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to pay. Then I can go to jail. Like, yeah, okay, I'll go to jail. Whereas I'm in a Muslim country, and the Muslim ruler says you go to court, and the court here's this court that was appointed by this Muslim, and it's a civil law, like it's like say Pakistan or something like that, right? Or Jordan or something, right? And so this is how they do it. It's basically, British law or French law tweaked or whatever it is. And so that's how the court system works. And they came to the conclusion that I owe you the money. We say as long as لا ينقض به القضاء, as long as it's not invalid, then it's binding. Right. So we're going to go with
So we almost treat it the same way. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're going to basically say, so it's different to a fatwa, right? Or like, is it halal haram? So we might say it is haram what you did, right? Like it's haram for the court to do that. Like that fatwa is too weak. But as long as it's not wrong, then it is right. If that makes sense. Like as long as it's not categorically wrong, then it is right. And then because of my haqq, I have a haqq. The muwatin, the citizen, has a right for conclusion and for settlement. And so he's going to have to be there. So most of these people we call qadi durura, they do not fulfill the conditions of a qadi, but we just accept them anyway. And we need that to be done, right? And so that's why, so in a not a Muslim country where they don't apply Sharia law, but their conclusion does not categorically contravenes Sharia law, then that's binding, right? I'll give you an example, right? So in Jordanian law, you are obliged to support your child up until they finish their BA. That's part of nafaqa wajiba, right? Your son and daughter, if you have the money, you're obliged to pay for him to go to college and get through his BA, not to his master's and PhD. Now, imagine, for example, theoretically, you go into Shafi school and they're like, no, what are you talking about? Why would you have to pay for BA? Like there's no nadir for that in the Shafi school. Okay, and you go to Hanafi school and they say, yeah, it's wrong, right? And then there's things on the news or between the fatwa department and the government saying, like, you can't force people to do this, right? That's wrong. So then we say, fine, the fatwa is it's wrong. The law is it's yes. You are now in court and the judge says you have to pay. Done. Because as long as it's not wrong, like that's categorically against the Quran and Sunnah, there is no room for it whatsoever, which is not the case. Even if it's like a haram fatwa, right, then it's binding, right? Now, here, the question of how far can it go, right? And so, for example, you will find Hanafi specifically who will say that if the court rules that a threefold divorce in one sitting is not a threefold divorce, then ينقض به القضاء. It's just wrong. So we just ignore it. Like that doesn't mean anything. We don't really care that it applies to lots of people. It doesn't really matter, right? You'll find other scholars who will say, هذا قول شاذ. It's a قول شاذ. There's a weak, very, very weak position. لا يجوز إفتاء به. You cannot give that fatwa. Anybody who does it is sinful. You're wrong. Anybody who promotes it is doing something wrong and it should be silenced. However, if the judge does it, it's binding because it's not categorically wrong. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So Muhammad, you had another question, and then Saif has a question, I believe.
No, the follow-up was that does that mean we almost treat Muslim ruler on a non-Muslim system the same way we treat the kafir ruler, or like the kafir?
So there's a slight difference. Number one is the moral difference. So I'm in America, okay, and it's totally safe. There is nobody on this road whatsoever. Okay. There's a new road that they built, okay, and there's a stop sign. There is nobody that lives here whatsoever. Nobody. There is no need for me to stop at the sign. There is no danger. There's no danger. There's nobody who's going to look at me and say, "Oh, look, Muslims go through. Don't stop at don't stop at red light. Don't stop at the stop sign." It's not going to cause a fitna. It's not a danger. Can I just drive through it? So yeah, because the non-Muslim has no moral authority over you, whereas King so and so, Prime Minister so and so, the Muslim says, "Stop at this." Like unless it's ridiculous, like for example, today you have to wear, I love King so and so t-shirts, something like that, right? Unless it's like something ridiculous like that, you have to do it. I remember being in the car with one of my teachers, and so it's sometimes you see teachers with their friends from back in the day, right? So there's a sheikh, he's a sheikh, and he's with one of my teachers, and my teacher doesn't put his seatbelt on, okay, and he's in Jordan, right? Nobody puts a seatbelt on in Jordan, so he's like, hey, like, isn't that haram? He's like, why? He says because it's the law, like you have to put your seatbelt on. And then he's like, yeah, but it's kind of like, what's it called? Qanun, tafih, right? It's like it's like it's a pointless law. So then his friend's like, because he can push him back a bit more. He's, doesn't have the head over the student, right? He's like, I'm a buddy, bro. So what are you talking about? Like pointless law. That's a totally reasonable law. Like you should always put your seatbelt on. That's irresponsible. And he's like, good point, right? So I'm in America. Do I have to put my seatbelt on? No. Unless it's unsafe between me and Allah, like I did something unsafe, I don't have to put my seatbelt on. If they want to find me, but I don't. That's something else. There's no legal, there's no moral, and I don't have to put my seatbelt on. Whereas in Jordan, I have to put my seatbelt on because the law has said that. King Abdullah has said, in my capacity, doesn't matter if you like my politics, doesn't matter what you think anything out. King Abdullah has said, you have to do it. Okay. Hadir, tu'mur, right? You have to listen to it. Does that make sense?
Yes. Jazakallah khair.
But Sheikh, you can go to jail in the US if your child doesn't wear a seatbelt in the car. Is that
Correct,
worth it just because the president's not a Muslim?
No, but I'm saying, let's say, for example, I am in the middle of nowhere. There are no policemen, and I know there are no policemen, and I'm going to go 5 miles an hour, and there's no harm whatsoever, right? So you're thinking about, oh, that's a waste of money. That's a good point. So it could be haram or makruh because it could be a dumb waste of money. Like, why did you just be lazy and not put your seatbelt on? Or it is genuinely dangerous. Between you and Allah, you're doing something dangerous. You shouldn't do dangerous things. But I'm saying it's not dangerous. There is no risk of a fine. There's no other harm. But it's just the fact that he told me to do it. Then do I have to do it? No. Whereas the Amir, the Muslim ruler, you have to do what he says. He has a moral authority over you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, there's an argument I've heard some people saying, like, when you came to this country, you made an agreement that you're going to follow the law. I don't really think that's, I don't know. Certainly on a bigger level, right? On a bigger level, Muslims should not be part of the problem. They should be part of the solution. That's something else, right? You have recklessness and just like being ridiculous and not really, giving back. That's a whole other discussion. But I'm talking about on a very technical level. Like I am right next to a sheriff, and the sheriff is my friend. He is not going to give me a ticket. It's safe. And I'm driving without a seatbelt, and there's this. The fact that it's the law, does it make it moral? No. Whereas in a Muslim country, it does, right? Unless it's what's called silly, right? It's like that's just go, or there's clear oppression in it, right? Yeah, everybody has to give 50% of their wealth to the king. Like, why? Why'd I have to do that? No, that's just oppression now, right? So I'm not obliged to do that. Okay, بأن يكون السارق بالغا فلا قطع على سبيل المجنون مكره ويقطع. Okay, so we said citizen of a Muslim state. So you're in a Muslim state, meaning this is a state run by a Muslim. Okay, he does not have to be religious. He doesn't have to be anything. Just the fact that he's a Muslim.
Okay.
Is somebody speaking in the background?
Like I said, just like
Saif, were you speaking?
I had a couple of questions, I guess, to ask.
Okay, go ahead, take it.
Sorry, but the first question I guess I had was if if the head of a Muslim country, which is like a Muslim, so then that's Muslim countries. So I'm guessing by extension, in the case of the country with a non-Muslim population, the next election, I guess, if it's a non-Muslim, that would mean
like something like Nigeria. That would mean like Nigeria is going in and out of the Muslim country.
Okay,
that makes sense. It's like in and out, right?
That makes sense. And the other question I guess I had was if let's say Syria, I guess if there's I guess back to criteria, I guess, of when a ruling by a Muslim ruler becomes, but it can't be followed, as you said, like it goes clearly against the Quran Sunnah. Like in terms of the Sunnah itself, I guess, like how do we understand that it goes against Quran Sunnah? Like for example, I guess like if you have a hadith, sometimes you have bodies of hadith which may indicate, I guess,
just categorical. So it's very unlikely. So what do you mean against Quran and Sunnah is we mean it's like qat'iyya dalala wa thubut. I know 100% the Prophet said this, and I know 100% what he meant, and you are going against it. You're just a kafir, or your judgment is wrong, right? You're just wrong, period. Right? And so there is no
so
right?
So from a fiqh perspective,
as opposed to it goes against the form of dhahib. Say, well, it goes against the form of dhahib, that means it's going to be haram to give fatwa against it. But that doesn't make it categorically wrong. Right? It doesn't make it categorically. Like, I'll give you an example. If a Shi'i joins every day, do we call him a kafir? No. Okay, if he doesn't pray, he doesn't believe in praying. Like he thinks you can just pray whenever you want. He's a kafir. He's either ignorant or he's a kafir. So we say that's wrong. We don't allow people to just join for no reason. The former dhahib agree that there are certain reasons why you could join, but we're going to say you're not categorically wrong, so therefore it's not kufr, right? Does
that makes sense. And I guess so I guess like by extension, I guess like we are basically saying if we're basically saying unless I guess for example he makes a law which we know for sure like is by the ijma, I guess, or something, and which takes out of like Islam, then it's not. Like for example, like but the case I guess I have in mind is in Tunis, for example, they have a law proposed which says that they're going to make the inheritance law, I guess, like between man and woman to be the same, like between son and daughter to be the same, I guess. So in that case, I guess can we then say that in this case this is something that's
Yeah,
categorically wrong?
categorically wrong. Yeah. So
Okay.
here I am. My sister inherited half, and I inherited half. Categorically wrong. So does that mean that I have to accept that she took some of my money? No, it's my money. Right.
Right.
It's not her money. Right. And it's haram for her to take it, and it's she can't do that. Similarly, and this is way more important for us living in the West, you go to a non-Muslim court, right? Divorce settlement or whatever it is, a financial, and the ruling is wrong, right? The ruling is wrong. Like that is not what the Mufti like. So if the Mufti is saying she has this right and she can't get it, they've gone to this masjid, they've gone to that sheikh, they've gone every single thing, and the only way she can get what the Mufti is saying is by going to a non-Islamic court. That's fine, right? That's like saying, for example, the only thing she can do is to lie, right? So the only way she can get the right that she deserves is by lying. Fine, she can do that, or he can do that, whatever it is, right? But what is wrong is when you go to a non-Muslim court and you get something that is haram, and you say, well, the court gave it to me. Yeah, but it's haram. It's not yours, right? So the case of, for example, I remember I did a long research on that, on the issue of what is it, alimony, right? And it's like I don't know that's as far as I know that's not halal. You can't do that, right? Can't do that. So like you're now asking for money. That's not your money. Yeah, but the court gave it to me. That's not yours. Like if you're concerned the guy's gonna mess you over, ask for a higher mahar, right? There's mahar, there's this, there's that, there's different things. There's something called mut'a. There's all these different things, but you can't just get money. You can't just just get money because the court allowed you to, right?
So that makes sense. So I guess like just in terms of I guess making it like I guess like in terms of robust category like for this, we're basically saying like if the Muslim country goes against the like the ijma, I guess, of the Muslims, that's when I guess we can say for is wrong.
Yeah, but even ijma, there's different types of ijma. So like you could categorize ijma into about 18 different categories. Okay. And not all of them are qat'i, not all of them are categorical. So when you say, I know as a historical fact that all of the Sahaba said, or I know as a historical fact that all the Sahaba did, that's ijma'. Ijma' out of the Sahaba is dhanni, is not an issue of agreement. And then half of the time, there are things like ijma' sukuti, right? So I'll give you an example here, right? So here, we went back to this quote here, right? This nation has concurred. When did they concur on that? So Ibn Aqadi Abu Bakr Arabi in the 5th century, he says, 5th century? Yeah, 5th century. He says, this nation has concurred that is a condition for the hand to be cut off. Really? When did they do that? When like, how clear is that? Like, how clear is it when I read about Islam? How clear is it that everybody agreed on this? Okay, generally going to find it within the madhahib. Yeah, that's great. I'm not talking about within the form of madhahib. Even outside of that. How crystal clear is that? It's not going to be that crystal clear. I can just tell you off the top of my head, right? A lot of things like when you start digging, it's not crystal clear. Because you could say, for example, so-and-so didn't say it, and you just assume that he didn't say something, therefore he agreed, but that's not the case, right? So when you say, for example, all of the Sahaba said, it is halal, all of the Sahaba ate X, right? They all ate something, they all drank something. It must be halal, right? But they all did something. But as opposed to some of them said it and the other people didn't say anything, or that the Tabi'een said it, right? Or the Sahaba didn't agree on something, but then the Tabi'een or the Tabi'een agreed on something. That's an issue of debate. There's debate, right? So we can't do takfir, we can't label somebody as a kafir, A. And B, when it comes to a court, right, is an issue. So then the case in point is the threefold divorce in one sitting, right? Ibn Taymiyyah went to prison over that. Everybody wrote against it. It's a whole issue, but then it's like, here it is in many Muslim countries, right? It's now there in Jordan, right? It's there, part of the Jordanian law now. I think it's in a number of Muslim countries. I think Egypt, and I'm not sure about Egypt, actually, I don't know. But a number of Muslim countries, that is the law now. It's a threefold divorce in one sitting. It counts as one. It does not count as three, right? Even though you come and ask me and I say, bid'ah, khata, wrong, your methodology is off. The Ummah agreed against that. Don't say that. Whoever says that this is the methodologically off, right? But now the judge gives that judgment. Is it now over? As far as I know, it's over, right?
That makes sense. Yeah. And one last question, I guess, like, try to push you on this. I guess one last question, like in the case of Tunis, like if the Muslim rule now is making this law, does that make him a kafir?
No, because he's not necessarily happy with it,
Okay.
right? So there's tons of things that Muslim rulers do that are not, as opposed to, yeah, I'm fine, right? I'm not. I don't. I think he asked him, say, what do you think about Islam? So I think it's a dumb religion. He's like, oh, you don't believe in Islam? Yeah, don't believe in it. So, oh, you're a kafir, khalas. As opposed to, somebody does a judgment, and this is a whole issue with Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah wrote about there's a whole book that came out recently, Ibn Taymiyyah wal Maghul, right? The Ibn Taymiyyah and the Mongols. So there was a whole issue of the first kind of generation of Muslim Mongols who were Muslim, and that's it. Like, we're Muslim. But then they did not apply Sharia law, and they weren't doing the right things at all, right? And so how does that work, right? So at that particular point, Ibn Taymiyyah was saying these people are kuffar. They are not actually, right? And that fatwa has been used in modern times to kind of do kind of ISIS kind of things. Whoever doesn't, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ, right? The ayah. Whoever does not judge by what Allah has sent down, those people are kuffar. So that's led to certain extremism in Muslim countries that legitimizes blowing up, assassinating rulers and rebellion and these kind of things. Anyway, that's another discussion. Shall we talk about it another time? So we're going back to this point. We said for the thief, he's a visitor to the Muslim country, or he's just on a treaty, right? So you want this person, so mu'ahid. So you are a German who entered Jordan with a visa. You're called what? You're called what? You're called a musta'man, right? Or musta'min, right? Or let's say, for example, Jordan, Israel, an Israeli goes in, mu'ahid, right? There's a treaty between them. Okay, so this person there's no had punishment for stealing with this, right? And this is part and parcel of a whole thing that really is in the Hanafi school, is to what extent does the Sharia extend to a non-Muslim country, right? And so that's why we have things in the Hanafi school saying, for example, if you're in Dar al-Harb, if you're in a non-Muslim country, you are not you're not under Muslim rulership, and you're not a citizen of a Muslim state, then certain things in the Sharia don't apply to you, right? Which is very dangerous. Okay. So order. First, we cut off the right hand at the wrist, then the left foot above the foot, then the left hand at the wrist, then the right foot above the foot, and then there's some other ta'zir. So this person has stolen 4 times. We do not cut anything else off. Rather, we, there is a discretionary punishment, right? And there's a weak position, which is this person is imprisoned and executed, right? That's a weak position. But the relied upon position is no, you don't do that. Right? I think Tirmidhi mentions. Here's a good example, right? Often we find people quote everybody saying something when in reality it's not agreed upon, because when you say everybody, that is a positive statement, right? And so it's quite hard to be positively sure that everybody says what you're thinking they're saying, right? So Tirmidhi, for example, he quotes in the generally the methodology of Tirmidhi is very, very important. He quotes a hadith, and then he mentions a criticism of the hadith, and then he mentions what the fuqaha say, right? And you frequently see hadith is sahih, nobody agrees with the hadith, or the hadith is weak and everybody agrees with it. It's a very important methodology that he shows. There's 2 cases where he mentions hadiths. He says, every single hadith that I mentioned in my book has been acted upon by somebody, right? Apart from 2 hadiths. One is that the Prophet ﷺ joined prayers in Medina for no reason whatsoever. And Imam Nawawi explained that hadith away slightly. And the other one is this hadith, which is whoever steals, then cut this. And whoever steals, then cut this. And whoever steals again, then kill him, right? So Imam Tirmidhi says, like, nobody has ever applied that. Like, you don't kill somebody for stealing. Or no, maybe that's with drinking. My apologies. I'm mixing it with drinking. Am I? But my point is, I'm trying to say is that somebody early, like the 3rd or 4th century, will say everybody says this, and that's because they're not aware of what everybody is saying. Right? It takes time for knowledge to spread. Right? It takes time, and so sometimes you're like, no, actually, there's debate on this. You didn't realize it. I might be mixing the hadith up with the hadith of drinking. I think that's the case. Whoever drinks, then flog him. Whoever drinks, then flog him. Whoever drinks, then flog him, and then drinks a 4th time, then execute him. I think I'm mixing the two up. Anyway. Okay, next topic. Highway robbery. Okay, so highway robbery. This is right. This applies to anybody who uses fear and threat to take over an area such that the person has no ability to seek refuge, right? To seek help, right? So it's so we mentioned, for example, a mafia taking over an area so they can't control it. The same kind of thing. Hussein, you still had a question?
Yes, I did, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead, Wisdom.
Just related to the injunctions placed by Muslim rulers, what about like conditions like for Hajj, like the Saudi government would place that they're adding a shart to the validity of Hajj. Would that be considered as well? Like the risk, what's it called? The permits for Hajj.
So they're saying, what are they saying? The Hajj does not count if you don't have this band on?
Correct. If you don't have the permit.
That's not a legal issue. That's a personal issue. So that's not a legal issue because it's got nothing to do with court, right? So
I see.
So for them saying your Hajj is valid or not has nothing to do with court, right? And this is the problem when people talk about fasting Ramadan. That you're talking about a court issue, or you're not talking about a court issue. That like I'm talking about, is it Ramadan or not? I said, Habibi, Ramadan is a court issue in a Muslim country. It's not a court issue in a non-Muslim country. Okay, why? Because if you don't want to fast, don't fast. And if it's Ramadan, it's Ramadan. Everyone's by themselves. It's like, yeah, but you have to unite the Muslims. You cannot unite Muslims because it's not a court issue. It is by its very nature an independent thing. You want to fast, fast. Don't fast, don't fast. You fast today, fast tomorrow. It's up to you. It's you and your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're not convinced it's Ramadan, I can't make you fast, can I? Whereas in Jordan, for example, it is the law. It is now Ramadan, and you're a Christian. And if you're caught eating in the street in Ramadan, and it's defined by Ramadan because look, the Grand Mufti or whoever the ruler appointed confirmed Ramadan, you ate in the street. Now you have two weeks in prison. That's the law, right? It's a legal issue, right? It's a legal issue. So whether your Hajj is valid or not is not a legal issue, right?
But it could be, right? Like if they capture you and then they remove you from Mina, but you still have arkan that you have to fulfill.
It's still not a legal. It's not a legal issue. Whether your Hajj is valid or not is not a legal issue, right?
Okay.
Similarly, like somebody who leaves Islam but they don't tell anybody. So this person does not pray unless people visit the house. Like he's a munafiq. So munafiq is not a legal issue,
right?
Because between me and Allah, I don't believe in any of this stuff. But outwardly, I'm a Muslim. It's not a legal issue. Not a legal issue meaning it has nothing to do with the court, right? It's not an issue there.
Okay.
And sometimes it can be legal and non-legal, right? In the scenario of the guy, he said to his wife, "That's it, we're over." Okay, and they had been talking about divorce for a long time. He intended divorce thereby. Okay, she knew it as well. She knew the guy meant that. They've been talking about it for a long time. She knew it. She could say wallahi, says wallahi al-azim, he meant that. Okay. So now they've been away. Her idda's ended, and then they go to the mufti, and the guy says, "No, I didn't." He lies. He lies, and he says that no, I didn't intend divorce. So legally, so then they take it to the court. The court says, "Okay, what did the mufti say?" Or whatever it says, and the court then ratifies the fact that he's still married. He says, "Yeah, he said something could be understood in two ways, and then he lied in front of the court, and he said, yeah, I didn't intend divorce thereby." So he's still married. So we say, legally he's married, religiously he's not. So it's actually two things in the same time. It's a moral issue, what we call diyanatan, between him and Allah. It is haram to be alone with his wife. But qada'an is fine. In the eyes of the court, it's fine.
Got him.
Outwardly. Similarly, you steal my car, okay? And I see my car in front of your house. So between me and Allah, I can take my car back. Okay, I say, hey, bro, can I just see those keys for a minute? And I just grab them from you and run into the car and drive off. I can do that. Court-wise, they have no evidence that it's my car. I can't prove that it's my car, so they're gonna say you stole his car. Right? So that's the difference. What's happening in the court, how the court works, and what's happening in legally. And sometimes you can even know that. Like as a judge, you know the guy's a liar, but you're not allowed to use that. You can't say the fact that you know he's a liar because that's not the process. That's not the legal process. So you can't even do that, like, even though you know what's going on, right? Again, it's a bit like liar, liar, right? When they all know what's going on. It's like, does it make sense?
Yeah. Barakallah fiqh.
So subhanAllah, this is why, right? People talk about Ramadan, it's like subhanAllah, mashan Allah uskut, right? Like for crying out loud, stop talking. But you have no idea what you're talking about, like unity and da 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 da. It's like, bro, like I was under discussion. I said, somebody said something like this. I said, kalam farid, like this is like you're talking like nonsense. Like you have no idea what you're talking about. Like you don't have the basic paradigms in your head at all. Like this is not that. This is Matn Shuja. This is 101 level, right? So this is like basic paradigm. Like, what are you talking about it, right? And so this is a great shame to have people, board members of a masjid or community things. People like you have no idea what you're talking about, right? This is not. It's just like it's like basic knowledge, but they don't know what they're talking about. May Allah protect us all. Say higher robbery. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, indeed, the penalty for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive upon earth to cause corruption is none but they should be killed or crucified, and that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides, or that they be exiled from the land. That is for them a disgrace in this world, and for them in the hereafter is a great punishment. Okay, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, except for those who return repenting before you apprehend them, right? And know that Allah is forgiving and merciful. So again, citizen of a Muslim state. Okay, so now we're dealing with, okay, what if they are pirates that are not Muslim of the state? That's something else, right? So now I'm Yemen, and I'm dealing with Somali pirates. Okay, that's under Somalia, right? But let's say, for example, they're not from Somalia. They're something else. Then, well, let's go back in the past. Let's make it a bit clearer. Ottoman Turkey, right? Ottoman Turkey dealing with Spanish pirates. How do you describe that? We call that war. That's not called highway robbery. So the Muslim state has no pact with Spain. The Muslim state does not is not, and the Muslim state, no member of that Muslim state gave security to those pirates or those mariners for to make it even clearer. It's an issue of war. That's the default state of war. So then, like, yeah, we just sunk their ship. Like, yeah, you can do that. So here we're talking about an internal thing. This is happening. This person is the Somali government working with Somali pirates. Totally different thing, right? As opposed to something that's different, right? Totally different. They're involved in violence, even if they don't actually kill people, right? It's not talking about killing, but violence in general. There is a threat to the community. So highways, for example, that far away from the police. Cities, police cannot control. I'm speaking Arabic then. Speaking Arabic now, mashallah. Cities, yeah, no, that's not correct. Cities in which police cannot control them, meaning these people, these gangs, whatever, right? So if they only kill people, then they are killed, right? So normally, right, it's not a had punishment. If you kill my dad, I'm supposed to forgive you. Okay, so it's between me and you. So again, we're talking about civil rights because it's something to do with me. It's my right, right? It's not a criminal issue. Whereas here, this is a criminal issue. You do not have a right. So here you can't say I forgive you, because it's the right of the community, because it's affecting people at large that these people be killed. They kill and they take wealth. They are killed and crucified. right? So they're killed and then they're tied up there on the places for people to see them, rotting on a stake, right? They take wealth only. They don't kill anybody, but there's violence involved, okay? And it's not safe. They only take, well, they don't kill. The right hand and left foot are cut off. Neither nor, so they don't kill anybody and they didn't take any wealth, but they're just a threat, right? So neither nor, imprisonment and punishment, right? I.e. ta'zir, some discretionary punishment, whatever they want to do, right? And so this is a societal right, haqqullah, right? And so it has no right, so it may not be forgiven. You can't say, I forgive that person, okay? Now, except for those who return repenting before you apprehend them. So if they repent before they're caught, no fixed had punishment. So now we're going to go to the rights of other people. That's all. So they made Tawbah. Now the rights of other people, whose money did they steal? They can give it back. Who did they kill? You have the right to qisas, right? Okay. Any questions or queries?
So the punishment for highway robbery, you said, like if they do kill and steal, um, is the like cutting the, huh?
Go ahead.
Yeah, is the like where you basically crucify them.
Mhm.
So was that for citizens and non-citizens, you said?
That's only citizens.
Oh, it's only citizens.
So
Okay.
otherwise, it's going to be, it's jihad. It's a totally different thing.
Ah, okay.
It's a totally different thing. Like, not even, right? So it's very important to kind of like study history. Like, history is very important, and just look at like where we are now is very weird. It's kind of confusing on many levels. If you just go back to Ottoman Turkey, like what is Ottoman Turkey doing? Right? It's just there's expansionism. There's like how they're working, for example, in the Mediterranean, right? So they would like hire prisoners to sink Spanish ships and stuff like that. Like, how can you do that? Right? It's like, well, because the enemy of the enemy is a friend, right? So it's important to have that picture, right? There's many things that are the modern world warps our understanding. I'm not trying to promote some kind of like terrorist mentality or what's it called? What do they call it? Wala wal bara and that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. But what I'm talking about is just like there's a major warp of like how we understand things, just because the way we live life, right? And how politics work today, right? It's kind of very it's confusing. Whereas when you just like look at how things were in the past, it's a very different kind of picture. Okay, let's go on to Siyal then. So it says defending oneself. So Tirmidhi narrates, whoever dies defending his property.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
Sheikh,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up on this with a question. Does that mean this hukm specifically is not applicable in this day and age?
No, what I'm saying is if they have to be a Muslim, so you're saying people of the citizen of the state does that. So there's an area, let's say for example in the Ruba al-Khali, there's the Bedouins that control an area in Saudi Arabia. But these people are citizens of Saudi Arabia. And it's very difficult to get out there. The roads are not there. And there's a whole area where you just really can't get through because of these people are there, right? There's these bandits or whatever it is. It would apply to them. A terrorist group that you cannot control. They've really kind of taken over the thing. Yeah. So, but what I'm trying to say is, when we're not dealing with a citizen, we're dealing with a war zone. That's what we're dealing with. So it's a very different picture. You say, well, how would you, if they weren't a citizen, how would you deal with it? Well, I would deal with them as if it was a war zone, because they are not, they for example, they're Mustetmen, that they visited on a visa, and that doesn't allow them to do this kind of stuff. So that's gone. You know, if somebody enters the country and becomes a spy, you can kill them, right? That's not, they don't, their sanctity, that the fact that they've been given safety is not there anymore. If you have a treaty or something like that, right? It does that, and now this person's doing these kind of things. in your country or outside of your country. I'm trying to say it's an issue of war as opposed to an issue of a court having a fixed punishment for an individual that is a citizen. Does that make sense?
Is that because of jurisdiction, or is it
It
because
is
of
jurisdiction, but it's just the nature. You say, well, when you say what you say, what do you mean when this person is not a citizen? I'm saying is if this person is not a citizen, that is the default anyway. That this person that person is not safe from this country anyway. So that is the default. Let's say, for example, the King of Jordan says, no more treaty with Israel. What is the default relationship between Jordan and Israel then? War. That's the default. Like that is the default thing. With there's no, you don't have to declare war. That is just the default, right? So then,
as it stands, if a
not
group
as it
of
stands. I'm just
Zionists,
saying that is. So you say the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ goes to Medina. What is now the default relationship? War. That's what it is. And the Quraysh knew that, and that's what they so that's how it is. And so when you say there's no treaty, and this person is not visiting as a messenger or allowed to come in the country, how do you describe that relationship? That is a default relationship of war. So now there's a pirate that you do not have a political agreement with. You can just sink them. Like it's not an issue of like, oh, do you have to cut their hands off? Do you have to do this? It's not even an issue. The default is the demuhu hadar, right? That his blood is not safe anyway.
and Sidi, should this happen like within the country of citizenship, or one of the countries of, like, let's say in the case of Somalia and Yemen, for example, if
Yeah.
this happened outside of both jurisdictions, which court will have jurisdiction over?
That's a good question, and I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
Yeah, because that's now an issue. So those things, the jurisdiction did exist in the past. It was a thing, right? And so I don't know like how that works exactly. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say
So that
is, let's say, for example, America, right? America became America, right? Now you say, what is the relationship between the Ottoman Empire and America? The default is war until the Ottoman Empire says we recognize, probably for political reasons because they're against the British, right? We recognize, United States of America, right? I think Ottomans were one of the first people to opt to recognize America, right? So we recognize you and we're buddies. Okay, we now have a treaty. Okay, if there's no treaty, what is the default relationship? It's a relationship of war. So therefore, there is the American citizen or whatever that's like he's being involved in piracy. It's like you're just not safe. Period to begin with. Let alone you don't need to have a court you don't need a court. It's just not safe. Period. Why? That's the default setting. Does that make sense?
Yes, Jazakumullah khair. My question was about understanding the original hukm, like how the default type of qata' al-tariq happens. Does it have to be in the city,
default
outside of
is
the city?
the default is these people are muwatinin. These people are people that are Muslims. These are Muslims or dhimmis that live they're part of this Muslim country. That's the default description that we're going to have, because outside of it, that's not gonna apply.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair.
Was Morocco. So were they part of the Ottoman Empire at that time? They're already separated.
I think they were already separated. But I'll verify, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay, defending oneself. Okay, we should stop here, inshallah. Okay, defending oneself, we'll talk about this. So this is not really, defending oneself is not really a court issue, but it is related to a court issue, inshallah. So we'll talk about it, inshallah, next week. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان الله وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك